What's up, guys? Back with another one, as they say. I would say in France. I don't know if that's what they actually say in France. Oh, there we go. I had no idea when I made the racing video that so many people would actually agree. It's crazy how many people just agree, like comment after comment. I also didn't know how much some of the people that I admire so much inside of this space would communicate kind of some strange things, and probably were a lot more angry than I thought that they could get. This turned into a huge miscommunication. I did my best. Still, it kind of fell apart. To that end, in a video that I'll be doing now about a breakdown regarding the kind of Facebook dialogue that went back and forth between Seth from Amped Electric and Albert Kua, who sells One Pack. Both of who, fine gentlemen. I admire both of them quite a lot. Their contributions, a myriad, dude. Crazy. But we'll talk more about that later. This video is about part 2, racing. Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back. Welcome back. I hope that you're all doing amazing. In this video, this is video number 2 of the EUC racing series, and this is going to be the second and last video that I do. If you want to see why I absolutely love EUC racing, then stick around till the end, and we'll talk about that. Because it's not that I am anti-racing. It's just that in life, things are not all good and they're not all bad. And I think that better understanding the shortcomings that a thing has, or the ways that a thing can improve, probably sets the thing up for longevity and a better time for everybody that's involved in the process. So I think that that's important to understand straight away, okay? So in the first video, I pissed off a couple folks. Some folks, they really went to the hill with it. A lot of people actually really agreed with the majority of the things that I said. I was terribly surprised by that. But here goes. First video, we talked about how inside of Honda, Toyota, Nissan, all of these companies, they had been around for a long time before their performance divisions were established. And that's important because they had refined their processes. They had perfected what they were doing before they went and decided that, hey, now we're going to make these performance things and call what we do a performance thing, right? So that's very important that you keep it inside of that understanding. They refined their process before saying that they were a performance thing, okay? Now, the next thing that we talked about was the fact that performance things actually don't account for an enormous part of the whole market, right? So inside of bicycles, for instance, they account for like performance, specialty, mountain bikes and stuff like that, accounts for about 10% of the overall volume of sales inside of that area. If you're trying to grow the sport, you're trying to get more people inside of the community, then you really need to take a step back and get a bigger catch-all net going, okay? So that was one of the other things that we talked about. We also talked about legislation and how legislation can potentially impact people's ability to even like own an EUC be able to store it at their house, be able to take it to work, be able to ride it on the streets in their community. Like, those things are real issues. We didn't touch on all of those deeply, but in terms of legislation, those are some really big issues. And now to get into the meat and potatoes of this video, let's talk about EUC racing. The highs, the lows, the risks, the potentials, and whether or not it's doing what people really think it's doing for the industry. There's a lot to unpack here, so let's take it one piece at a time. First and foremost, let's get this straight. Racing in public spaces is not the way forward. Little jaunts, a little acceleration here and there, so long as it's in a controlled manner, that makes sense. Sure, but pushing extreme speeds where there's pedestrians, there's bicyclists, there's cars, and other unpredictable variables, come on. That's a no-go. It's reckless. And beyond personal safety, it gives regulators every reason to crack down on EUCs as a whole. Outlawing these wheels kills the sales. You want to ruin the whole industry? Keep on giving governments reason to ban these things. So this is actually something that I had thought about a little bit, but since Muhammad brought it to my attention in a post, I figured let's go. Are we even racing? Here's a question I keep on coming back to. Are we really racing each other, or are we just gambling against the tolerances of the wheel? Right now, we're not competing against other riders. We're betting against, hi there. Oh, I can go off-road. Oh, looky there.
You're special.
Oh, you know, I wish that people weren't so bitter. Basically right now, we're not even competing against other riders. We're betting against like thermal limits, battery sag, and cutouts. It's not a sport. Guys, it's not a sport, it's a mechanical lottery. No, it's okay. I was gonna go behind you. Thank you. And now let's talk about begode for a second. The brand was effectively shadow banned from the races in Spain because of safety concerns, specifically with the battery packs. That means that retailers aren't stocking them there. Tell me how that's good for begode. Because if racing was supposed to push innovation, wouldn't they be at the forefront of safety by now? So here's the one that everybody's going to be mad at me for. I mean, but does racing actually contribute to EUC advancement? Does it? Thank you, man. A lot of people think that pushing their wheels to the absolute limits in races makes them better, but that's not really how innovation works, guys. What actually advances EUCs is controlled systemic testing with real data collection. There's lots of data points. Think about it. Car companies don't just throw a car onto the Nuremberg ring, racing, hauling all of the booty, hoping that it survives. They use extreme riders and closed circuits to collect valuable stress testing. They don't just see if the car can take abuse. They analyze every failure, every stress point. They design tests that push the limits in controlled, measurable ways. Imagine this. Real world usage, it's messy, okay? Different terrains, different rider weight, different ambient temperatures, different humidity levels. All of this makes data collection inconsistent. And that's why firmware tracking and structured performance testing are the real pathways to improvement. So imagine this. Imagine a roadmap where we deploy firmware with embedded telemetry that sends anonymized data back to software engineers. Create standardized test environments with controlled variables, altitude, temperature, humidity, precipitation, to truly understand mechanical tolerances. Fit test wheels with specialized sensors to measure power draw, battery fluctuations, temperature stress, and even motor strain. Use extreme riders strategically, not unlike the way that car manufacturers use professional drivers to push the limits in controlled environments. To push limits inside of a controlled environment and not in random street races. If EUC manufacturers genuinely want to improve their products, they need to invest in these methodologies and not rely on anecdotal race performance feedback. Catastrophic failure, reality check. Another thing that EUC riders seem to downplay is what failure actually means. A cutout at 50 miles per hour isn't just an inconvenience. It's a potential life-altering event. A battery fire isn't just an engineering flaw. It can cost a company its reputation and ability to sell in certain countries. Let's compare this to the automotive, aviation, or marine industries. When a car company designs a new car, they go through years of failure testing, crash simulations, stress tests. extreme temperature trials, redundancy evaluations, aviation. It's even more intense. Airline manufacturers spend billions designing redundancies to ensure that a single system failure never results in catastrophe. That means every bolt, every electrical connection, every single software patch is scrutinized to the highest degree. Now imagine if EUC manufacturers put 1,000% effort into ensuring that a catastrophic failure was 1,000% impossible. That would mean true redundancy in power systems, so that way a single failure never resulted in a faceplant. Over-engineered safety margins, and not just theoretical safety limits. Mandatory firmware fail-safes that detect issues before they happen and actively prevent riding when those thresholds are crossed. Sadly, or maybe not so sad, until manufacturers approach EUC safety with this level of seriousness, extreme racing it's just a dice roll, guys. Now, dream with me just a little bit. Imagine if we had actual dedicated EUC racetracks, a closed course designed for speed, but for like each of the diameters, like a course with a lot of tight turns for 16-inch wheels, and maybe a course with a little bit more of a straightaway sort of vibe with the bigger wheels that are like the 22-inch wheels. I mean, just think about it, guys. The possibilities are actually endless. Imagine a barrel roll, like a torpedo tunnel barrel roll, something like that. Humongous berms. I'm talking 90% leans, completely perpendicular to the wall, just corkscrews and all of that. Guys, just imagine if it was specifically for us. And of course, you gotta make EUC specific rules because we have just one wheel. So you make specific rules that balance the speed, it balances the safety. Sponsorships that amount to a ton of actual real income. Like, it could be a profession. Imagine. Actual dedicated training facilities specifically for EUC, so riders aren't just learning on the fly. That would be the real future of EUC racing. And in a lot of ways, we're there. But in a lot of ways, we're not. And I think being mindful of the ways that we're not is going to help us get there a lot quicker. So it's not about these random street sprints, right? Racing on the street. It's not about that. It's about structured competition where skill, not hardware tolerances, determine the winner. And here's another reality check. Being a professional anything is not cheap. In motorsports, racers don't just show up and go fast. They train. They train constantly. They put in hours at the gym. They invest in physical therapy. They have nutrition plans. They have entire teams maintaining their machines, guys. And to top it all off, they're insured. Because everybody understands. They understand the inherent risk of extreme sports. Right now, EUC riders, racers, we're not compensated for our time. We're not compensated for the training. They aren't compensated for their victories in any meaningful way, which means they aren't training full-time, which means they aren't maximizing their potential. Calling today's EUC racers professionals is a disservice to what professional racers are going to look like in 5-10 years. Pioneers? Definitely. Daredevils? Definitely. Ingenious? Yes. Heroic? Maybe. But professional? Not just yet, guys. We don't even know what that looks like yet. I honestly can't wait. When the tech is 100% stable and riders can train full time and race on tracks 100% meant for EUCs, dude, it's going to be wicked. EUC racing can be amazing, but only if we're smart about it. We need to ditch the whole public racing thing and push for structure, data-driven advancements, and start thinking long-term about what professional EUC racing actually looks like. This camera hates me. I swear it does, but it's fine. When obviously after everything that you've seen up to now, right? You've seen all of these reasons why racing is dangerous, why it's potentially bad for EUC sales as a whole, why it's bad for recruiting new riders, because there's so many potential downsides to marketing these things as extreme at this point in time. There's so many downsides. So all that said, my name's Johnny Go Vroom. Johnny Go Vroom. You would think that the people who've been lambasting me about how racing is the way that we advanced EUCs, you would think that these people would recognize that I like to go fast. Of all people, I like to go fast. So why race? Like, if it's not gonna advance the technology, you know, if we're not pushing the limits and the extreme marketing isn't actually what sells. It's what people click on, true enough, but it's not really what sells. Then why race? I'll tell you why, guys. Because it's fun. You know it. You know it. I know it. Anybody that's leaned into one of those wheels and just went all in, went all for it, they know it. You know it. It's just fun, man. Testing your mettle against your friends, you know, having these stories to tell years and years later about how you barely edged your friend out on this race, on this track. That's why we do it. It's fun. And the other reason? Because of community, guys. It brings people together. These events, people travel from everywhere to get together, to have a good time, even regionally inside of communities. These events, they bring people together. They create memories. They create friendships that last. And that's what keeps people coming back. It's the fun. It's the community. It's what that means. I don't know how the people that I look up to in the space missed that mark. Go through all the comments, unless they add one after this video, but go through all the comments. Not one person that was arguing for racing of EUCs, not one mentioned the plain fact that it's just fun. Not one. And not one of them mentioned the fact that it builds community. Not one. You had a lot of threatened egos out there. A lot of people that really showed themselves. I don't really know what that means, man. But I'm gonna keep on having fun. Till next time, guys. Vroom.